Hi everyone. In this video I'd like to discuss another improvisational concept that deals with tritones and why it's important for people to be able to improvise thinking about tritones. So what is a tritone, first of all? It's a distance from one note, any note, let's say C, and it's a distance of 6 half steps either above or below any note. So a tritone above from C is right here. The tritone below C is right here. Now, because we've mostly been dealing with scales in order to aid improvisation, let's talk about what that would mean in the context of like a 2-5-1. So let's say our 2-5-1 is in A flat major. Let's just pick a key. And so that would be B flat minor 7, going into E flat 7, going into A flat major 7. So scale wise, normally we would know that as this. Right? Just E flat 7 against B flat minor 7 to E flat 7. But we can make use of the scale that's a tritone away from that dominant, away from that E flat dominant 7, and also outline it. So that would look something like this. So I played the dominant 7th scale a tritone away. We can even do this. We can play the dominant 7th scale a tritone away against the full minor 2 chord to the dominant 7, because remember, a minor 2 chord is really just outlining a dominant 7. So I could play B flat minor 7 to E flat dominant 7, but play A flat dominant 7 the whole way, and that would sound like this. Now, why is that valid still? It sounds out to our ear, but why is that valid? And the reason is this. One of the earliest videos, again, I talked about the family of 4 dominants that come from the same diminished, and E flat 7 comes from the exact same fully diminished 7th chord as A dominant 7, and I'll prove to you why. Here's E flat 7. That comes from this fully diminished 7th chord, right? Because if I lower one note, there's my E flat 7. But if I take the B flat and I lower it a half step, there's my A dominant 7th chord. So because those 2 dominants come from the same fully diminished 7, they're brother and sister, and that's why they're meant to play with each other. So again, a tritone. The main reason why it works is because they come from the same fully diminished 7th chord. Some people think of it as, well, if you look at the tritone, you know, the 3rd and the 7th are just switched compared to the dominant. So the 3rd factor on A dominant 7 is the 7th on E flat dominant 7, and the 7th factor on A7 is the same as the 3rd factor on E flat 7. That's also valid, but we're just trying to, or I'm trying to explain this to you in a way that's, you know, the most thoroughly that I know I can do it. So how do we put that into context? Let's say I want to play a tritone line to superimpose over a dominant. One of the most effective ways to do this is to utilize extra note rules for the tritone away. And in one of Barry Harris's masterclass, he talks about an example that Charlie Parker played over back home in Indiana, which is a tune that goes like this. Okay, and at one point in that, Bird plays 2 really good examples of tritones. They're really just quintessential examples of them. So if we take the tune, and then at this spot right here, this is a 2-5, that's B flat minor 7 into E flat 7. plays is he does this. So let's look at that really closely. On that 2-5, that B flat minor 7 to E flat 7, he starts off with a chord built on the second of the E flat dominant 7 scale. And he approaches it from a half step below. And then he goes into a half step rule for E flat 7. And then he immediately switches into a half step rule for the tritone away, which would be A dominant 7. And he does 2 half steps. And then he resolves back into A flat major. When it's played at a quicker tempo, it's really effective. So that's one example of a tritone. And then on that same recording, Bird plays another tritone. That's an example of, instead of playing the dominant 7 right into the tritone, he plays the dominant 7 fully against the minor 7 to the dominant. And that spot comes up here. Right here. And I'll play that down an octave so you can see all the notes. So at that point in the song, the chord change is E flat minor 7 into A flat 7, resolving into D flat major. But if you look at it closely, the tritone of that dominant A flat 7 is D7, right? And then Charlie Parker clearly played D dominant 7 over the entirety of the E flat minor 7 into A flat 7. That's completely D dominant 7 against E flat minor to A flat 7. So he sort of did a broken arpeggiation of D dominant 7. And then he goes into a half step rule. And then runs up the 7th chord built on the 7 of D7. And then resolves into D flat 7. So those show you examples of why tritones work. Again, it's because they come from the same fully diminished 7th chord. And just to reiterate this family of 4 dominants concept again, so I'll try to keep it in the same key. E flat 7, we know it's necessary for us to play E flat 7 into A7. Why? It's because it's the tritone. And then from a previous video, I talked about outlining a minor 2-5. So let's say I would need to be able to not only play E flat 7 into A7, but also E flat 7 into C7. Because that's what a minor 2-5 is. That example, G half diminished, is built on the 3rd of E flat 7, and then it goes to C7, so that's why I need to be able to do it. So I hope that tells you a little bit about using tritone relationships in major keys. In the next video, I'm going to talk about using tritone relationships in the context of a minor 2-5 or in minor keys. So I hope that helps, and I'll see you in the next video.